Hello fellow crew members, my name is Meriwether Lewis, and I am the leader of this expedition you are all about to partake in. Please be noted that starvation, death, disease, and injury will be faced, and it's not my fault. Anyways, welcome to St. Louis, Missouri. Here we will begin our expedition across the west of the United States. Since President Jefferson obtained a huge plot of land called Louisiana, we are now able to inhabit and expand our borders. On this day, May 14th, 1804, we will start our treacherous journey to record any new findings we come across.
Yes.
On this day, September 1st, 1803, the pilot of the ship informed our crew that they were not too far from a ripple worse than anticipated. A ripple is a section of a river where the water levels are very low. The fog in this area was so heavy that you could not see any object 40 paces away. He advised staying where they were until the sun was high enough to make the fog disappear. Until 8 we went out. The fog was noted to be very common in the Ohio River area at this time of year. As the sun rises, the fog slowly dissipates. The fog seems to exist because of the difference in air and water temperature. As the warm water heated from the sun and the cool air coexist together, they form fog. We passed the little Horsetail Ripple, where we struggled to push our boat through. The next obstacle we faced was the big Horsetail Ripple, where we were forced to unload our cargo and carry our boat over it. We then reached the ripple at Wallery's Trap at around 5 o'clock. I hired a man with oxen to assist in dragging our cargo. We amassed over 10 miles today. Today, September 2nd, 1804, we set out on our journey early in the morning on the Missouri River. We passed an island and set ground under a yellow bluff on Bonhomme Island. The wind, which came from the northwest, blew very hard with a little bit of rain. It was very cold. G. Druner, R. Fields Newman, and Howard managed to kill 4 elk. We jerked the meat and then had the skin cover the pierogies. Halfway down the Missouri in the grassland, we were able to spot a Whitetail Jackrabbit, which seemed pretty cool, I guess. It looked nearly like the hares I had seen in Europe. It had a white tail, that's about it. I rated 7 out of 10. About another halfway down the Missouri, we witnessed the sighting of a western willet, which had brown plumage and a white rump. Since it was a short bird, the beak on it was very long, basically the length of its head. Pretty cool. I give it about an 8 out of 10 on the cool animal scale. Today, May 26th, 1805, I set out very early and proceeded with my travels by the tow line, using oars to pass the river and using the shores to my advantage. The hills to my side were very high. Stones that were rolling down the cliffs by rivulets became more bothersome than yesterday. Above the horizon of the hills were hard freestone with a brownish yellow color. The stone was very unequal in thickness, seemed to be overlapping or encrusted by limestone. In the morning, Captain Clark ventured down the river hills. He advised me that he had seen mountains running parallel to each other on each side of the river. The mountains seemed to be about 15 miles apart. On this walk, he also saw elk and barely any timber besides pine and spruce. Later in the day, I hiked around the river hills. When arriving at the summit of the highest hill, I laid my eyes on the Rocky Mountains. They were covered with snow, and the sun shone on them in a way that gave the mountains a very beautiful look. As I glimpsed at the mountain, I could not help but think of the endlessness of Missouri. But then I reflected on the difficulties that I would face while dredging through the snow to the Pacific. I could see elk and bighorns in the distance. I was able to observe a creek that was 20 yards wide. I observed several soft-shelled turtles, which were the first thing I saw this season. I was able to kill a buffalo, which we butchered. East of the Rocky Mountains, in a grassland, we spotted a swift fox. It seemed to look like a malnourished version of the common red fox that was typically seen in the northeast. It was cat-sized, skinnier, and its fur was a light beige. I give it a 7 out of 10 on the fun animal scale. As we passed the Rocky Mountains area, and presumably into the Oregon County, we encountered the large monkey flower, which grew on a bush. It was observed to grow mostly on stream beds, with elevations spanning from 5,000 to 10,000 feet. It was a very beautiful flower, with a bright yellow color. This flower gets a 7 out of 10 respectively. We observed the Scarlet Dilla, which grew on an upright shrub. We found it on the Hungry Creek on the Lolo Trail. The color was unlike any other flower we saw, with a rich red color. I give this one a 9 out of 10. I observed 2 species of evergreen shrubs today, which I first noticed at the Grand Rapids of the Columbia. They grow mostly in dry, rich soil which wasn't far from the water. Their roots are cylindrical. Their stem is from a foot to 18 inches tall. The plant stood upright. Its leaves are colline. The leaves are joined and oppositely pinnate. It's at its widest at the base and is tapered to a point. Each point of the margins is armed with 13 to 17 thorns. The thorns are glossy and veined. The leaves are the color of a deep green, with their thorns pointing out in the extremity of the common footstalk. I do not know if this plant bears any fruit. It greatly resembles the mountain holly. On this day, September 23rd, 1806, we woke up early to descend the Mississippi River all the way down to St. Louis, at which we arrived at around 12 o'clock. We were greeted with celebration and cheer. I met with Mayor W. Christie, an old acquaintance of mine, who settled down here as a tavern keeper. He provided us with rooms to store our luggage. With the expedition completed, we were looking forward to returning back to our homes to see our families that we hadn't seen in so long.